Alright everyone, welcome back to the RazorwireReviews Podcast, the triple threat of wrestling, movies and life. How is everyone doing? Hope you're well, wherever you're listening to this, however you're listening to this. And yeah, I got a bit of a sniffle today, so hopefully that won't deter me too much. And we'll get on with this and have a good time. So, first of all, before we even get into the main podcast, just to kind of mention the fact that it is, I think, just over a month now that I've been doing these weekly. So that's kind of, this is officially the longest running podcast in the history of me doing podcasts, which is much to say, but it's cool. I'm enjoying doing this on a weekly format, weekly schedule I should say, and again, enjoying the feedback from you guys, and anyone who does let me know what they think of the podcast is always much appreciated. The date today is the 29th of October. We're near the end of October now in 2014, and it is 10 minutes to 5 in the PM. The clocks went back. Did they go back? Yeah, the clocks went back on Sunday night. No, was it Sunday night? Yeah, I think it was Sunday night. I don't know. The clocks went back last weekend anyway. And so it is now currently pitch black outside here in Norway, which isn't unusual around winter time. It does get dark really early, and well, I'm not kind of as far north where it's kind of dark for 6 months or anything like that. But you know, suffice it to say, you know, in the depths of winter here, it's dark a lot of the time. But also in the height of summer, it is also light a lot of the time. I remember one of the first times I visited here, I think 2010. And it was in the summer. I think it was my second visit to see Connie. We'd been going out for about a year at that point, and you know, we were out playing games, I think, on her PS2. And I looked outside, and she had kind of an apartment, like it was kind of below level, but the top of the room had a small window you could see outside. And I looked out at it, and I was like, it's still completely bright. It's 1 a.m, and it just looked like it was, you know, in the evening, and it was so crazy. It might have been 12:30, midnight, something like that, but it was just crazy. But anyway, it's also getting a lot colder. And again, not to go on about the weather and stuff, because that's like the most basic small talk. But you know, the winters here haven't been that bad. You know, well, last winter wasn't that bad, I should say. I've been here about 2 years. Well, Connie's been in this place for 2 years, and I've been here like a year and a half. But I kind of was back and forth for about 6 months. But 2 winters ago, it was like minus 19 or something. It was like, oh, it just started absolutely pissing down with rain as well. It's been the weather's been terrible lately, but it is getting into the winter months, so bound to expect that. But there's still no sign of snow, which is crazy. But yeah, 2 winters ago it was like minus 19. It was like, you know, you be careful when you go out. I remember I walked up to the shops. I had a pair of jeans, you know, the torn jeans, and there was a hole near my knee. And when I came back, I just couldn't feel my knee. I was worried I had frostbite or something. And again, minus 19 or whatever, it was ridiculous. But last winter wasn't actually that bad. I mean, it was very cold, but it wasn't as bad as the year before. And there wasn't as much snow as you would expect. And yeah, we haven't seen any snow here still. And it's all, you know, it's November in a couple of days. So I'm sure it'll definitely hit. But it was more in the earlier months of 2014 that we had snow, as opposed to the last months of 2013 last year. Anyway, so going to kick things off with your questions. This week, by the way, there's not going to be a big main event. It's just going to be a mishmash of stuff. So I hope you enjoy the things I have to talk about. And as usual, I was thinking to myself, just a few hours ago, I've got nothing to talk about. And just by racking my brains for a minute and actually using it, I realised that there's plenty to talk about. So just give you a little taste. I'll be mentioning and talking about the Marvel news. I'll be talking about some of the horror films I've been watching lately, and a few other things, bits and pieces. So your questions, again, I threw out the call on Facebook if anyone had questions for me to answer, and I just got a notification on Facebook, so I'm just going to check and see if it's another question. No, it's Darren Locke commenting on a link that I shared saying James Rolfe is a hack. Well, Darren Locke, you can go fuck yourself, in the nicest possible way. Now, your questions. I've got a question from James DVD Collector. I'm just going to take a sip of my drink. He says, if you could be a sidekick to any superhero, who would you choose? Now, do you mean in real life or in a movie? I don't know. I would say I'd have to go with Batman, because just to be around Batman would be badass. He was my favorite superhero by far, and because he's not really a superhero, that's why I love him. But yeah, just to be allowed access into the Batcave and stuff like that would be awesome. I wouldn't want to be Robin per se, but perhaps a cooler version of a sidekick to Batman, I think. He also asks, do you want Vader in Episode 7? No, I don't want Darth Vader in Episode 7. And I've talked about this before in my Star Wars The Road to Episode 7 videos, where I'm so excited for Episode 7. I can't believe it's happening. Of course I want it to happen, but at the same time, I feel like Return of the Jedi was such a perfect ending. You know, it brought everything together. It was all rounded. Even with the prequels, it was such a full story. It almost feels like that they might ruin it. I've got total faith in J.J. Abrams, and I really think it'll be a great film. But part of me thinks, should you even mess with an ending that was that good? And I'm talking about the ending before the "no" was added in. Fuck that ending, which was just terrible on the Blu-ray. But the original Return of the Jedi ending, even with down to the Ewok song, Yub Nub, Echop Yub Nub, all that stuff. The original Return of the Jedi ending for me was just perfect. And again, I said this last week, I think my first experience with bittersweet melancholy, when I was like 6 or 7 years old. But no, I don't want Darth Vader in Episode 7. You could do the whole flashback thing. You could go to like Vader hunting down the Jedis. You could show all sorts of things in flashback form. But I don't think that kind of format works within the Star Wars cinematic universe. I don't think it does. You can put them in books and stuff, but for me, Episode 7, we shouldn't have Darth Vader in there. Now, there was some concept art leaked, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I could see them going with something. But obviously, his character, Darth Vader, would have to be mentioned. He'd have to be the ramifications of what he did, both as the evil, supervillain, also as the guy who brought balance to the Force, and essentially, destroyed the Emperor and destroyed the Sith single-handedly. Of course, he's going to be either a celebrated figure or a figure that is at least infamous and talked about. So I'm sure we'll hear about Vader in Episode 7, but I don't think we'll see him, and I hope we don't see him, because I think that, that's the main thing I thought when they said we're going to do Episode 7. I was like, well, how are they going to top Darth Vader? That's the thing. Darth Vader is one of the most iconic not villains, but movie characters of all time. In the history of cinema, Darth Vader is one of the towering pillars of, just an iconic image. Everyone knows Darth Vader when you look at him. You go to any country in the world, barring these kind of, third world countries who don't experience entertainment, but almost anyone in the world can recognize Darth Vader. And I think that they're going to have trouble coming up with a villain that will match that. And I don't think they will, but I think they've got the potential to make one that's pretty good. I just think that Darth Vader was a home run on so many different levels. I don't think that a character like that can be just replicated, or, well, that's the thing. Maybe they will bring him back. I don't know. Well, they're not going to bring Anakin back, but they might heavily rely on flashbacks and stuff. I'm not sure. But anyway, I've rambled on far too long, but that's my thoughts on that. I think that it's best left just as people talking about him and him being remembered in the film. People maybe, say Luke has kids asking him, what was Darth Vader like, that kind of thing. But in terms of appearing as a character, I'm not really a fan of. But then again, I might be proved wrong. We'll see what happens. Thanks for the questions, man. Then we have Sir Stuart Milam, and he asks, any thoughts on the recent Ghostbusters 3 news? No original cast members. Restarting the timelines if the first 2 films never happened. All female cast. And he also says, personally, he's hating it. I think I mentioned this in a video a few weeks ago. I didn't know that the plan was to kind of do a reboot, but then I think that's what was being rumoured anyway. But I don't know. For me, I'm a huge fan of the original Ghostbusters. I even love the second film. I know a lot of people don't like that one, but the first Ghostbusters film is one of my top 20 films, my top 20 favourite films of all time. And I would have loved to have seen another, but at this point I feel like it just should be left alone, But then there's people who are up in arms about it, and again, Stuart's saying he's hating it, but I don't care. I mean, it's not going to affect the first film at all. It's not going to take away anything from the first film. You're not going to see a bad, it's not like Batman and Robin came out and everyone was like, oh, that's ruined, Batman Returns. No, you can go back and you still enjoy Batman Returns. It's a fucking awesome film. It doesn't matter what happened with Batman and Robin, But yeah, I think if they're going to reboot it, fine, just do what they want, and I'll go watch it. But probably not in the cinema. I'll probably wait till it's out on Blu-ray. But there's potential there. It can be a funny film, but I think that it's such a revered franchise, and fans love it so much that I think there's always going to be a huge backlash to something like that doesn't involve the original cast or isn't a straight up sequel. For me, they're going to do it. They're going to try and milk some money out of it. I mean, Dan Aykroyd was saying he wants to make some kind of like a huge deal out of it, like he wants to take the Marvel model and use it on Ghostbusters, which I think is a terrible idea. He wants to make like multiple movies, he wants to make TV shows and all this, and I'm not a fan of that. But they're going to try and make money out of it because it is a very lucrative brand name, so it's business. It's a shame. They should just leave it as it is, but it's not going to hurt the original film. So yeah, I'm not really excited about it or looking forward to it in the slightest. To answer your question, anyway. Thanks for that anyway, man. Next up, we have a couple of questions from Ryan Chataway. Earliest memory, he asked me. I always try and think about this. One of my earliest memories, I think, was going to see Beauty and the Beast in the cinema, because I have not a vivid memory, but I always say that, a vivid memory, but no, I have a fairly clear memory of seeing the opening shot of Beauty and the Beast and sitting in a cinema watching it. That's all I remember, is just that opening shot, of the the great kind of landscape at the beginning of the film. And when that came out, 1992, something like that. So I think I was about 4, and that's how I worked it out. But I also have like a really early memory of having a dream about the film Aliens, and specifically dreaming about there's a shot on the back of the VHS cover of Aliens of Ripley and Newt, and she's kind of carrying Newt down these kind of, or across like like one of those walkways in the the colony in Aliens. It's kind of a dark, murky image, and I kind of dreamed about those walkways, but it was the stairs of my nan's house, but they were now the alien kind of stairs, and Ripley was there and Newt was there, and I was kind of observing it, and that was one of my earliest memories, was dreaming about that. It wasn't a nightmare, but I dreamt about it, and of course I talked about it before that Aliens was the first film I ever watched. So maybe that had some impact on it, I'm not sure, but that's one of my earliest memories, and yeah, I'm sure if I rack my brains I could come up with some more. And I'm very interested in memories as well in general, and how they change in our heads and things like that, which is a weird thing to say. I don't want to go too much into it now, but if you heard my chapter of the first chapter of my book, Back to the Yard, a couple of weeks ago, I kind of touch on that in the first chapter of my book. So anyway, earliest memories, yeah, just those two I think stand out, and I mean, there's quite a few. Watching Star Wars for the first time, I have no memory of watching Star Wars for the first time. I have a memory of trying to watch Star Wars for the first time when my stepdad, was trying to. I said uncle because both my uncle and my stepdad were both called Richard, but my stepdad was trying to show me Star Wars, and I wasn't interested. I wanted to go upstairs and play the Master System and play on Sonic and Alex the Kid. And I remember sitting on the sofa with him going, "Hey, look, it's robots." And I was like, "No, not interested." So I remember that, but I don't remember when I watched Star Wars and fully loved it. I do remember the first time I watched Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, though, because it was in the same day. Anyway, so yeah, those are some of my earliest memories. He also asks 5 Criterions you would love to own, or Masters of Cinema. Criterion Collection, in the US and Canada, just the best Blu-ray / DVD company in the world. Followed closely, in my opinion, by Massive Cinema, Eureka Entertainment in the UK, who are basically the UK's answer to Criterion, who release classic films and preserve them, and I love both lines. But Criterions, 5 Criterions I'd love to... I should have thought about this beforehand, but 5 Criterions I'd love to own. One is the Zatoichi box set with The Blind Swordsman, which is unbelievable. It looks like one of the best box sets I've ever seen in my life. It features like over 20 films in the series. It was this Japanese series about, again, that blind swordsman called Zatoichi. And I've only seen one of them. I've seen Zatoichi Meets Yojimbo, because that stars Toshiro Mifune, one of my favourite actors. And I enjoyed that film. I'd love to see them all. And just, for me, I love big Blu-ray box sets of tons of films. Like the Bond Blu-ray set. It's like, you've got all these films to watch. I love it. So I would love to get the Zatoichi set, but it is so expensive. I don't know if I'd ever be able to get it. Another Criterion I'd love to own is probably the one I probably will never get, and that is the AK-100 set. Akira Kurosawa celebrated 100 years of not Kurosawa films, but I think it was his 100th birthday. Not that he's alive still, but it would have been his 100th birthday, so they released this big box set, nice and red. Robbie Webster has it, and it features 25 of his films on DVD. Pretty much his whole filmography. I think he made 33 films in his life, so only a few are missing, and I would just love to own that set. It's got a nice book as well, and all digipacks. It just looks fantastic, and I have actually gone through it a little when I visited Robbie Webster. That was the first thing I went to. I was like, I want to have a look at this AK100 set, so I had to look. But that's another one on the list. So I think it's some regular. I mean, the Wes Anderson Blu-rays, I'll just count that as one. The ones I need to complete my collection: Bottle Rocket, The Life Aquatic, and The Royal Tenenbaums. Because I already have Rushmore, the Darjeeling Limited, and Fantastic Mr. Fox. So yeah, the other three I definitely want to get. Number 4, I just go with the Kurosawa Blu-rays. The ones I haven't got yet as well, like Throne of Blood, Rashomon. I really want Rashomon. The cover is so awesome. I'm sure there's something else. Kajimusha as well. And of course Yojimbo and Sanjuro, the twin pack. I want that so badly. I love those movies, particularly Yojimbo. So I already have Seven Samurai. I have High and Low. I have The Hidden Fortress, and I think that's it actually. So yeah, and then one more criterion that I really want. What would love to own. So many. I mean, there's loads that I haven't seen before that just look interesting to me that I would love to pick up and watch. Let me think. Well, I think I'll go with The Seventh Seal. The cover always intrigues me, and I've heard great things about it. I know Ryan Chataway used to think it was, it said many years ago in a video that it was one of his favourite films. So, Seventh Seal. And then Massive Cinema. Well, there's a lot of those as well, and anyone who follows my channel should know that I'm trying to, what's the word? Collect all of them. Forgot the word collect for a second. Yeah, I want to collect all of those Blu-rays, so really, I just want all of them. But 5 that I would love to own, I would say, and I'm already going to be talking about 3 later on in the podcast, so I'll leave those out of it, but 5 I would love from the Massive Cinema series, I would say, would be Frau im Mond, the Fritz Lang science fiction movie. It's my favorite Fritz Lang film. I absolutely love it. It's called Frau im Mond, but the title is The Woman in the Moon. I would love that Blu-ray. Faust, F.W. Murnau's Faust. I would love that. That film is just fantastic. It's just one of the best visual films I've ever seen. Another silent film from the 20s. And then I'll go with another one. A recent release that just came out. It was the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari from 1920, a silent horror film that I've heard great things about and definitely want to check out. Number 4, I go with Une Femme Marie, which is a Godard film, I think, and it's an out of print title in the collection, so I really want to get it before it becomes impossible to get. But right now you can buy it for like 40-50 quid, which is just crazy, but I really want it nonetheless. And then 5, I'll just throw in, I think, a Japanese film called The Ballad of Nariyama, I think, which the story really grabbed me when I read the synopsis. But really, there's tons in the Massive Cinema collection that I want to own. And I think I have now about a quarter of the collection, which is really cool. Next up, Nick Harvey, can you do a movie review of Hellraiser? I'll tell you what, I'm going to try and watch it before Halloween. And when I do my next video, Horror Month Part 3, I will talk about it in that if I do end up watching it. So, that's my answer to that. And finally, this isn't a question that was posed to me specifically for the podcast, but it was left as a comment on podcast number 10, going back to the yard. Wilkes363 says, I'd be interested to hear you talk more on that. I know you've talked about your fondness for writing before in previous vids, etc. What subject matter is it? Synopsis, etc. And he was talking in reference to the book that I'm writing called Back to the Yard. So I'm just going to give Wilkes363 a quick summary of what my book Back to the Yard is all about. It's an autobiography, which sounds like a pretentious thing to write as a 26-year-old guy who doesn't really have any kind of following or fame, but it's mainly, honestly, for me to look back on, and for my kids and their kids to read about a certain part of my life which was very important to me and very formative to me, which was backyard wrestling. And I would wrestle around with my mates in the late 90s and stuff, and took it a bit more seriously in the early 2000s, and then I joined this group in my hometown in 2004. And from 2004 to around 2009, I wrestled almost weekly, on grass, on gym mats, in halls, in professional rings. I wrestled once in a barn, on hay, literally. So I've had quite an interesting teenage life, traveling around the UK, wrestling people, meeting people, funny stories, interesting matches, things like that. So I wanted to talk about that and write it down. Also just to kind of talk about what was going on in my life at the time. So it's really about my life, but mainly in regard to backyard wrestling. So that's what Back to the Yard is about. And I plan to self-publish it next year, but there's kind of things there's roadblocks I'm going to run into because there's certain things I'll talk about maybe I can't talk about, certain people who might not want to be mentioned and so on. There are people who I used to backyard wrestle with who are now professional wrestlers who for it to be made public that they used to backyard wrestle would not be very good for their career. Not that when I self-publish this book people are going to be all over it, but it's there, and it could be seen by someone. So I'm gonna have to talk to a lot of people and get some kind of permission, or maybe even be creative with what I call them in the book, maybe to get around it that way. I don't know, but yeah, I plan to self-publish it next year, hopefully, if I get it written. I'm only 2 chapters in now, but I'm kind of really taking my time with it and trying to make it the best book I possibly can. And it'll be self-published as an ebook on Amazon, but I will be printing up a physical copy, which will probably be a bit more expensive, but that'll be available as well, I think. And also toying with the idea of doing an audiobook version of me reading the book. So there you go. That's my plans for Back to the Yard and what it's all about. So moving on now with just some more stuff. And thanks everyone for the questions once again. Always appreciate it. And it's great to get some interaction with you guys and answer some of your questions. Okay, so the October's coming to an end now, and with it, the kind of viewing of horror movies for me and Connie. I think that once October's over, we're going to move on to some other films because we don't really watch horror a lot, but we've been trying to watch a lot this month, which has been good. And I want to talk to you about paranormal movies, and of course the Paranormal Activity films. I think I talked about a couple of weeks ago, but just very briefly my thoughts on the series. The first one I saw years ago. Thought it was okay, some good bits to it, but ultimately didn't love it or anything. Then a couple of years after the third film came out, we went to see it in the cinema because we had an unlimited cinema card, so we could see any film we wanted to watch. Paid a certain amount a month, and you could see as many films as you want. So it wasn't like I wouldn't have paid to see it ordinarily on its own, but went to see it, and I loved it actually as a prequel. But it kind of goes back to the 80s and cameras that are very similar to the one I had when I was 11, and so I really, down to like the little noises it would make when it's zooming in and stuff, so I really enjoyed that aspect of it, weirdly. But I thought Paranormal Activity 3 was quite a good film, but it always bugged me that we never saw the second one. So this month we checked out Paranormal Activity 2 and 4. So the second one I actually quite liked again as well. Enjoyed it quite a bit. Excuse me, my throat's playing up a little bit, so it should be good. I'm not ill or anything. I'm just I don't know what was happening. But anyway, moving on. I'll just leave this in. Who cares, right? So the fourth one, it wasn't that good. I mean, parts of it were interesting in the way it incorporated like Skype and stuff like that. Well, not Skype specifically, but like video calling and using laptops and things like that. So, and also the Xbox Kinect, which I thought was a great thing to use in the film. Actually, that was a real stroke of genius, and really worked well within the kind of Paranormal Activity style, I guess you could say. I'm not going to go too in depth on these because I'll talk about it in my Horror Month Part 3 video. But I really did quite like a lot of the fourth film. The ending wasn't really a huge fan of, but overall I really liked 4. Thought 3 was great at the time, and 2 I quite enjoyed as well. So I'm actually kind of been won over to the series. I know there's one more film out called Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones or something like that, which I don't know if I'll check that out, but I know that Paranormal Activity 5 is coming out next year, so I'll be interested to see that one actually, funnily enough. So there you go. But also, last night, we watched Poltergeist for the first time. One of those classic 80s movies I'd never seen, and seen bits of, but not the whole thing. Came out the same year as E.T., only a few weeks apart, I think, and was actually kind of made by Steven Spielberg. I've been looking into it, and apparently Tobe Hooper, the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, among many other films, he directed Poltergeist, but it was Steven Spielberg's film, and there's been various kind of reports as to whether he actually directed the film. People saying that he was on set directing a lot of the time, and So that's interesting to me. You can kind of look at it as a Steven Spielberg film in a way, but either way, I thought it was great. I mean, the humor was really fun. You know, there was some great gags in it, and just the characters I really cared about in this house, where this little girl gets sucked into another dimension and is kind of trapped within the house, you know, with these evil spirits. But you know, it's they can only hear her through the TV. And I thought all that was really well done. Just the way it progresses, and the horror elements, but also with a nice amount of humour as well. I thought it was great. And a great companion piece to E.T. in a lot of ways as well. So, and it looks, well, I think I read that it was filmed in the same area as well. It looks very similar anyway. So there's definitely a connection between E.T. and Poltergeist, but I really, really loved it. I thought it was a fantastic film. The only thing I didn't like, and we're getting into spoiler territory here, if you haven't watched the film, it's not a major spoiler, but you know, you may want to, like, I don't know, just skip ahead about 30 seconds or so. But the fact that everything happens in the film, they get the daughter back, you know, from, you know, the room, her bedroom where she was sucked into this alternate dimension or whatever, and, you know, with the evil spirits. The day after, you know, everything, you know, the woman says this house is clean. They're like, right, we're moving out. You know, they got the moving truck there. The next morning, you know, they are ready to go, and like the father's like, you know, we're not staying here. You know, and everything's safe. You know, they're all good, but you know, we are leaving. And then he leaves and says, oh, I won't be back too late. I'll be back early. And she's like, okay then. Then she puts her kids in the same fucking bedroom where all the trouble was happening, where you know, the girl got sucked in to begin with, and she goes and takes a fucking bath. What I'm sorry, but I would have almost given this film a 10. I would have almost given it like a 9.5 at least. I loved it that much. But this lapse of logic where their daughter was almost taken from them, you know, for good, you know. They got her back. I mean, it's almost like, you know, I said this to Connie last night. Say you've got a young 5-year-old boy. You know, he's your son, and he's out playing in the garden. There's this tall brick wall and some rocks in the garden. And he falls off the wall, and he slams his head against the rocks. He splits his head open. There's blood everywhere. He's unconscious. You take him to the hospital. You're in tears. You think you're going to lose him. They take him in. They're like, it's rough. He's in a coma. We don't know what's going to happen. We may lose him. And then a few days later, you know, he comes back, and they're like, it's a miracle. He survived, you know. His head's always going to be tender, but, you know, it seems like everything is okay. We've done brain tests. Your son's going to be fine. And they're like, oh, thank God for that, you know, we thought we lost him. And then they take him home with a bandage around his head and say, okay, just go play in the garden, we'll see you later. That is exactly what it was like, and you would never do that as a parent. You know, I just can't believe that she let her 2 kids play in that same room where all the evil shit was going down, you know, where the tree fucking ripped the boy out of the window, and she leaves them in there, and goes, has a bath, and relaxes, lies down on the bed, and gets all comfortable. Oh my God, I couldn't. But I mean, it leads to like a fantastic sequence where like these skeletons are rising from the ground, and you see that, you know, you get the true reveal of why this is all happening. But that was all done great and everything. But I just felt that one lapse was, she could have just. I don't know. There could have been a different way to do it, because to me it just made her look so stupid when the whole time I hadn't really been questioning the parents whatsoever. I thought they were making the right decisions, and I was with them but all the way. And I wasn't given a chance to question anything until that moment where I was like, what the fuck is she? And then the husband is away. You know, oh, I'll be back early, he says. He's not back until all the stuff is kicking off, and that just bugged me. But anyway, I still thought it was a fantastic film. But then I looked into it, and I was like looking into film trivia and notes on the production, and was horrified to learn that the young actress who played the eldest daughter in the film was murdered before the film came out by her boyfriend. Which is terrible. And then also the little blonde girl, you know, one of the main characters of the film, died a few years later from, I think it was like cardiac arrest. I mean, very eerie, and young deaths I hate. I think it's horrible, and, you know, such a waste, but very creepy indeed. I'm not sure if I want to watch the sequels, really, knowing that especially the third film, which the little girl died before that film even came out. So people have said there's a curse over it, but I don't really believe that. And I was actually thinking about getting into my thoughts on the paranormal, but I'll leave that for another time, because already I'm talking for much longer than I thought I would, and I didn't want to make this a really long podcast. So, next up, I want to talk about a release of three new Blu-rays from the Massive Cinema line from Eureka Entertainment, which will be dropping on the 24th of November of this year in just under a month. One of the release dates was delayed, so all three of these are coming out on the same day. And if you're a fan of silent cinema, this is just an absolute treat. And for me, just a super mega release day, best release day ever for silent films. For me, without a doubt, because all on the same day, you are getting Spies by Fritz Lang, which completes kind of his whole filmography from 1922 all the way up to 1933, as released by the Massive Cinema series. So that's great. Another silent film from him, a espionage thriller, which I can't wait to check out. Also, again on the same day, Diary of a Lost Girl, which I've heard amazing things about, another 20s silent movie. And then finally, Douglas Fairbanks' The Thief of Baghdad, the epic 20s silent adventure film, which these three films, they just look so good. I haven't seen any of them, and I can't wait to check them out. And of course, they're all coming out with with a booklet and with some special features and things like that. So Massive Cinema just knocked it out of the park for November in terms of silent film releases. It's going to be amazing. Something I watched this week, wanted to talk to you about. I watched the Blu-ray of Pink Floyd, The Story of Wish You Were Here, which I got for my birthday 2 years ago, and I just was never in the mood to watch it. And that'll sometimes happen. I'll buy a Blu-ray, I'll get a Blu-ray that I really want, but I just won't really watch it or anything until I really want to. And that's when it's like, oh, I really want to watch that now. I'm glad I've got it. So that was good. And I brought it back home from Wales. I popped it in, watched it over a couple of days, bit by bit. It's an hour-long feature with about 25 minutes of extra footage. Fantastic look into the making of my favourite album of all time, Wish You Were Here, from 1975. You get input from David Gilmour, Roger Waters, Nick Mason, even Storm Thorgerson on the designs of the the packaging and the famous album cover with the man on fire, which they did for real. Hypnosis. I think the guy's name's Barry Humphries. Correct me if I'm wrong. Who was kind of the sound engineer or the kind of the sound producer on the album. He goes back to Abbey Road Studios for this documentary and kind of listens to the original recordings, and you hear from Roy Harper as well, which is really interesting, and you get to kind of hear about his bitterness about Have a Cigar, which is I never knew about even as a big Pink Floyd fan. So very interesting documentary, really enjoyed it. There's also a few archival interview pieces with Richard Wright. Would have liked to have heard a little bit more actually about his thoughts on the album and not just on Syd Barrett and the tragedy of Syd Barrett, which is also covered in the film, the documentary film. So great release, love the Blu-ray, and would definitely recommend it to any Pink Floyd fan. Now we're going to talk about the huge Marvel news that dropped this week. They had a secret event, I think it was, and I forget the guy's name now, Kevin something? Feige or something, I don't know. The guy who kind of the head honcho over at Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I guess you could say, was there on hand to announce the upcoming slate for the next 5 years of Marvel movies. Now, of course, Phase 1, they're now dubbing it in phases. Well, they've been doing that for quite a few years now, but Phase 1 was kind of considered as, the Incredible Hulk in 2008, Iron Man in 2008, and then, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, the first Avenger, and then ending with the Avengers in 2012, which was one of the biggest films ever. And then they kind of mapped out Phase 2, and I remember there was a similar kind of announcement of all the films that were coming, and one of them was called Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was like, what the hell is that all about? Well, now it's become, I think, the biggest movie of the year, or at least the biggest superhero movie of the year. I read the other day that it just surpassed X-Men Days of Future Past as the highest grossing superhero film of this year, so that's pretty incredible for a franchise that wasn't really a film franchise and wasn't really a well-known kind of well, I can't say it's not popular, but Guardians of the Galaxy weren't like in the pop culture like a Batman or a Superman or or Hulk, like some of these other big superhero film characters, but it still managed to capture something and be different enough to breathe some new life into the superhero genre, I think. I did love the film. I thought it was a tad bit overrated, but it's great to see a film like that do well. Anyway, so Phase 2, started off with Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and then Guardians of the Galaxy, and it will conclude next May, what was it, April? May or April, with Avengers Age of Ultron, which I talked about the new trailer of that last week. But now they've announced the upcoming slate, and here it is, in particular order. May 6th, 2016, we will see Captain America Civil War, which, as far as I'm aware, has something to do with Iron Man and Captain America going at it. But again, I've said this before, I know nothing about comic books. November 4th, 2016, we're going to get Doctor Strange, which everyone's really excited about, but no official news yet on who will be playing Doctor Strange. Apparently Benedict Cumberbatch is in the running. May 5th, 2017, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 has been moved up. It was going to come out in June or July, I think, so they've brought the release date forward. And then July 28th, 2017, we're getting Thor Ragnarok. I'm really glad that they finally announced a third Thor movie, because I love Thor, and it's going to be great to see another film with him. And then in November 17th, 2017, we'll be getting Black Panther. They've announced who the actor will be. I don't know him, but he was there on hand as well. And in July 6th, 2018, we'll be getting Captain Marvel. But it will be a female Captain Marvel. Again, I don't know anything about this, but it's cool to see that they're putting a solo movie with a female superhero. And then on May 3rd, 2019, where am I looking at? No, November 2nd, 2018, will be Inhumans, which I don't know anything about as well. Apparently people are excited about this one. But then, the big news, the real big news, was that in May 4th, 2018, we'll be getting Avengers Infinity War Part 1. And 3rd of May 2019, we'll be getting Avengers Infinity War Part 2. I think it's crazy that we've got a release date for a film that's not going to be coming out for like 5 years, but they really got their shit together, and they obviously know they're going to make all this money back. It's a lucrative business, and they're going to continue to exploit it in a way. But for me, I think every Marvel film, if you start at The Incredible Hulk, I think they've all been great in some way, shape, or form. I've enjoyed all of them. So if they can keep the level of quality up, then I'm all for it, and I'm quite excited for a few of these films, I should say. The Captain America one, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Thor 3. I'm interested in the other ones as well. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy I had no interest in, and it turned out to be a really good film. So I hope the other ones go the same way. It was said that Black Panther will be in Captain America Civil War. There are no plans for a Hulk film as of yet, which is a shame. I'm not sure why, but I'm kind of wondering if maybe he'll get killed off in Avengers 2, or he'll get sent into space, and then we'll see him pop up in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and he'll come back for Avengers Infinity War, which was also said that he'll be in Avengers Infinity War, so that might be where they're going with that. I don't know, but he's such a popular character. I wonder why they haven't gone with plans for a solo Hulk movie. Loki is confirmed to be in Thor 3, and that's about it really. There's a video of someone who filmed the announcement, and I guess you could say the first Avengers Infinity War trailer was brilliant. They used clips from like the previous films and the upcoming Age of Ultron movie, with some nice voiceover from various characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it ends with a shot of Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, and the crowd go absolutely apeshit. And then when it says Part 1, May 2018, Part 2, May 2019, they lose their shit all over again. It's such a fun video to watch. So yeah, it's a good time to be around for superhero fans who enjoy these movies. But yeah, I'm all for all these films, and can't wait for more to come. Finally, a couple more things I should say. Ryan asked me, to talk about any video games I'm playing lately, and just to very quickly tell you that me and Connie, we're currently playing a game together. We're playing Donkey Kong Country Returns for the Wii. This is a game I've wanted to play ever since it came out. We noticed that me and Connie, that a lot of people in our families have a Wii. Like the older people in our family, like both my grandparents had a Wii, and eventually my nan and granddad gave me their Wii for Christmas a couple of years ago. And it just seems like a lot of the older generation seemed to actually buy a Wii when it came out. So, but yeah, anyway, either way, so I had a Wii for my nan and granddad. They gave it to me because I didn't use it anymore, and I really wanted it for. In fact, I think it was 3 years ago, but I wanted it for the new Zelda game, Skyward Sword, which I never got to fully complete. I'm a huge Zelda fan. I could do a whole podcast about Zelda, but I didn't really have any Wii games apart from Skyward Sword. But we decided when we visited the UK last week that we were going to bring the Wii back here and play together with some games, because it's fun to play Wii two-player in certain games. And we looked in CEX, a kind of, I guess you could kind of like a trade-in store, sells second-hand stuff in the UK. A lot of people go there, and we had a look in there, and they had Donkey Kong Country Returns for £10. And I swear to God, ever since it came out in 2010, it was so expensive. And year after year, I would keep checking how much it was, and it was always like 30, 40 quid. Oh, it never went down in price, never. But we saw it for £10, and we couldn't pass it up, so we picked it up. And we've been playing it the past, I guess, 3 or 4 days, I think. And we've been absolutely loving it. Like, it's so much fun. We're dying so much. We've had game over probably about 100 times by now, but we're really enjoying it. It's fun and it's a laugh, and yeah, it's just really fun. And I'm a huge fan of the original Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo. So to see kind of a lot of the music be kind of brought back as a homage, I think is really cool, and I'm really enjoying the kind of nostalgia ride of hearing those familiar level tunes and stuff. So yeah, we're playing Donkey Kong Country Returns and having a blast so far. And now I'm just thinking, what other Wii games can we play? So if anyone who has played Wii games or still plays Wii games, not the Wii U, mind you, let me know if there's any good ones, especially two-player games that me and Connie can play, because we've had a lot of fun so far, and we're going to continue to as well. Every day I've been playing it so far, and Connie will get back from work and say, let's play Donkey Kong right now. You know, I've been thinking about it all day. I really want to play Donkey Kong, so yeah, it's cool. We don't really get a chance to play games together that much. Usually it's just kind of me watching her play a game or her watching me play a game, but in this case we can kind of both be on the screen at the same time. We did the same thing with the new Super Mario Brothers for Wii. A couple of years ago, I think we played the whole game at her mum's when we visited for a few days. We were obsessed with it. So, and it's a similar format as well, where you're both on the screen, side-scrolling action in kind of a 2D plane, but with 3D graphics, which I really like that format. So, yeah, that was just what I'm playing right now. And finally, there's a little story that I was going to talk about last week, and I forgot about it, so I'm going to pop it into this podcast. I think it was the last day before we left Wales. Me and Connie went at my dad's to say goodbye to the kids, my little brother, my little sister, Tommy and Millie. Millie is 5 years old now, and she can be a bit of a nightmare, but she's adorable at the same time. And she came up to me and Connie, and she had these glasses on. She looked so cute, and she had a little, I think, kind of little pad, or kind of post-it note style sheets of paper. It wasn't a post-it note pad, but it was similar. And she had a little pen, and she was looking at us, and she was like, Luke, how do you spell your name? So I was like, okay, Luke. And she was looking down with her pen, and she was really concentrating, and the pen was moving, and she looked a lot older than she was with the glasses and looking down and very carefully writing. And then she asked Connie, how do you spell your name? So Connie told her how she spelled her name, and she was there just super concentrated. I mean, she'll run around and be just completely zany, but this moment she was just so focused on what she was doing, slowly just writing down. And she pulled it off, ripped off the paper, and she gave it to us. And obviously it wasn't perfectly written or anything, and it wasn't really spelt properly, but we're like, oh, what does it say? And she said, and she pointed to it, and she said, it says, to Luke and Connie, I will miss you. And I just thought, oh my god, that was like one of the sweetest things ever. It was so nice, and we're like, oh, I'll put that on the fridge, which we haven't done yet, but I just thought that was such a sweet little moment, and just how much effort she was putting into concentrate on spelling our names correctly and stuff, and with the little glasses on. Yeah, it was just a funny little memory that I wanted to at least put down a podcast in case I forget it one day, and I can kind of remind myself about it, and maybe tell her when she's in her 20s and embarrass her or something. So there we go. That's been the podcast this week. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Next week will be my WrestleMania story part 3. I've already talked about my whole WrestleMania 30 experience, but I'm going to round it off with one more podcast and talk about the night after WrestleMania, and going to Monday Night Raw. Me and Connie getting on live TV, which was pretty cool, I think, and just winding down from the WrestleMania experience, and also the untimely death of the Ultimate Warrior. So it won't be a long one like the other 2 WrestleMania story parts, but it'll just be kind of tying up all the loose ends. So yeah, as always, do get in touch with me if you listen to this. There's actually a problem with the MP3 downloads. All the links weren't working, so I spent hours just reworking all the links, not only on my RazorwireReviews WordPress site, but on the YouTube video links as well. That took ages, so hopefully the download links are working now. Please let me know if you have downloaded the podcast and if it's working out for you. But also if you just streamed it through YouTube, again, let me know your thoughts. As always, questions, comments, suggestions are always welcomed on this podcast. Thank you for listening, and for the past few weeks I've been signing out with the Stone Cold Steve Austin sign off saying, "I'll catch your ass down the road." Well, I'm going to switch that up this week, and I'm going to do an impression of a film character doing that very same sign off, and maybe I'll do a different impression every week. Not that I'm a master of impressions, I'd like to be, but I'm not. But I'll be doing Bane from The Dark Knight Rises, one of my favourite film characters of the past few years, and he'll be saying, "I'll catch your ass down the road," to end this podcast. So once again, thank you for listening, and I'll catch your ass down the road.